Okay, we're back with Grazel, and we might be doing a little bit of myth busting today because we're going to be discussing which gender goes to therapy more. And there's this idea that women tend to be more emotionally attuned than men. I know, Grazel, we were just speaking about this before we started this call. Um, what do you think? Do women tend to go to therapy more?
Yes, yes. Uh, I see more women go to therapy more when we're talking about just kind of the binary gender. It's women tends to open up more emotionally, but I wouldn't say that all women does
Mhm.
or all women do. So yes.
And that's really interesting because the data in terms of how men and women are emotionally does tend to show that women are more emotional, men are more rational, logical in general on an average kind of bell curve. But how do you how do you see those kind of gender norms influencing how someone feels comfortable reaching out for help? Do men, when a man inquires, do they have a little bit of like hesitancy or like I shouldn't be doing this?
Yes and no. There are men that loves talking, and there are men that are also emotionally attuned, and there are men that likes to dig in and get better every time. And there are men that's pretty awkward, and but they still reach out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it also is the same for women too,
Hmm.
but there's just more women that are naturally open to sharing their experiences more so than men.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And how does culture play into this? Are there cultural
Huge.
expectations in terms of men and women in different cultures?
Yes, very much so. I'm glad you asked that because culture always plays a big factor to who we are as a person, regardless. Um, but there are different, you know, therapy is a was formed by Freud, who's a white American, so it's an
Mhm.
American, type of treatment.
Yeah.
So any other race or culture that doesn't belong in the America
Yeah.
or
The white
the
Western sphere.
white
Yeah.
white Western space considers therapy as a taboo still, and there's still stigma about going to therapy, but it's getting better as we become modernized in our culture, that therapy is something that is helpful and is natural to go into as a resource. But culture does play a big role. Like for different cultures, like I can speak to my culture. Um, Generations before me, therapy is seen as unhelpful. And in our culture, you don't share your struggles with anyone who's a stranger. And even if it's a professional, it's still a stranger.
Yeah. And
So
it's
we wouldn't normally go to therapy. Um, and for for other cultures, it's okay. But culturally, I think it's more stigmatized
mm,
than not.
yeah. And I mean, even within white people, there's definitely a stigma around therapy. Still, certainly in certain communities, it's um, it's just really interesting how that there's almost like an inbuilt, whether it's been a society thing in the past or just something about us humans, we don't want to share those deep things until it reaches a point where it's like, no, I need this thing dealt with. Um,
Yeah. And I think it's really hard too because, within the studies of psychology, it's going to therapy means you're there's something wrong with you. It means that you're going to be pathologized, and some people just want to talk and they
Yeah.
don't necessarily think there's something wrong with them, right? And that's completely okay. I don't think there's something wrong with you when you go to therapy. I actually see that you're trying to better yourself in a way that's going to make you feel good.
Mm.
There's nothing wrong about struggle and suffering.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Suffering can it can be an opportunity to build character so often, particularly if you've got someone trusted and someone who knows what they're doing to process it with you. Um, just out of interest, do you ever find the goals that you set in therapy have any kind of gender line? But in my head, I'm just wondering: do men tend to come to you more to further their careers, and they're like, I'm being held back in my career because of my stuff, and maybe women, it's more to do with friendships and relationships, or is that completely false?
no, that's false. That's false. A lot of there's men that come to therapy with success in their careers, but then having a really hard time emotionally um, attuning to themselves and to their partners and to their family members. And that's what they're looking for. And there are women that are very successful in their career as well, that's struggling with the same emotional attunement. And that can shift, right? Where there's emotional attunement in men, and
Mm.
then they're having problems in their career, and same for women. So it really depends.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I would have thought there'd be some kind of thing where it's like, okay, men tend to come for this issue, women tend to come for this issue. But I guess just the nature of you coming for therapy means you're broadly on the same wavelength as each other in terms of the genders. Is that accurate?
There's some differences, but I wouldn't generalize it
Mm.
to a certain gender, right? Like I think they come in with different things, but like, for example, some couples do come in and there's difficulty surrounding gender roles and gender norms that needs to be addressed. So sometimes there's women that are the breadwinner and the men is the caretaker of the children. Um, and there are families that are okay with that type of responsibilities, and there's some couples that are not okay with that, and it creates conflict, right? And so yeah, we do work on understanding what it means to be playing a gender role, or a role that's different from what usually the specific role that a gender needs to engage in.
Yeah, and what do you think about the idea of gender roles? Do they have their place in society and culture, or should we say everything's up for grabs and gender roles should have no bearing on anything?
Great question. I think it really depends on the couple,
Mm.
right? If the couple is able to talk about the gender roles being okay to play, I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. However, if um, gender roles are embedded in someone's identity, I
Mm.
think it can be problematic. If it's, let's, for example, if my identity as a woman means that I want to just be um, what patriarchy has put women in, the role of just being in the house and
Mhm.
not having a career. If I'm okay with that, I don't think that's a problem.
Mm.
But if there's a internal struggle for me to play a role of being a housewife, and then my partner, whether that's a woman or a man, wants me to only be a housewife, then that's going to be a struggle for me. And it's going to create gender role issues.
Yeah, there's going to be
Um,
a tension there that can't be resolved unless that issue is dealt with.
Yeah, absolutely. But then also, that's why I always encourage couples to do premarital counseling first. That way they can talk about these roles. And because sometimes it changes, sometimes the other partner needs to step up and be the breadwinner. And then the other partner needs to be the caretaker. And that can happen
Yeah.
due to loss of job stability or loss of income or disability or illnesses. So it needs to be talked about. If and when this happens, are you okay to take the role of being the breadwinner for the family?
Yeah. And likewise, are
Right?
you okay to be
And
the caretaker? Because a lot of guys aren't.
right, right. So I think it's so important to go to couples therapy, premarital counseling, and just talk about these hypotheticals so that if it when it happens, they've got a good ground to a good foundation to start from.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned premarital counselling actually, because that's in terms of negotiating the whole idea of gender roles in a relationship or just making sure the relationship is actually successful, having that groundwork before you even get married is so important. It means that you can actually,
Right.
you've got the foundations in place and you know what you're stepping into, and you're not trying to figure this out as you're going along and you're thinking, oh, it's too late now, I'm stuck in this thing that I wouldn't have got into if I'd known this. Yeah.
Yes, I think pre-planning is so healthy, right? Like in a relationship, especially for couples that are wanting children, they start as a couple with a dual income, and then once they start plan to have a family, then there's one partner that's the only one that's making the income because the woman has to bear the child and take care of the child. And is that okay for the other partner to be the only breadwinner? And do they have a choice? Sometimes they don't. But do they need support too? Absolutely, because it could be a lot for them emotionally. And sometimes men are not tended to in that way where, you know, they're the only breadwinner and they're expected to be that way because of patriarchy. And sometimes they need support too. Sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes they just want to relax and not do anything. And then women sometimes don't want to be at home all the time and they want to work
Yeah.
and they need to be seen in that way too. So I think it's just really important to talk about it.
Yeah, it's I guess the takeaway is you need to be in a position where you can be open and honest with each other about your experience, so then the issues can be dealt with rather than festering.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are men where they're so great at emotional attunement and child caring and rearing, and some women aren't, So
Yeah.
what strength do you have that's going to be better for the family is so important to kind of understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a fascinating topic, isn't it? But we'll dive into it again another time. Thanks again for your time, Grazel. We'll speak again soon.
Okay, thanks, Scott.